So after the recent events that happened in Chicago, has anyone else just been getting a ton of questions about range? Is that just me? Like, I had a guy the other day that asked if it was true what he had seen on the news that these cars only go 20 or 30 miles when it's below freezing. So I figured, you know what? Let's talk about range and how you can improve it. And make sure you stick around to the end, because the last way we're going to talk about is something I actually did recently for the very first time, and it felt like I was cheating by how many miles my car was going. So this first one is a super simple and easy thing to do. Make sure your tires are properly inflated. You can see what PSI your tires should be via the service screen or your app. Now, you'll notice it says cold, so please don't listen to the people that tell you to underinflate your tires so the operating temp is at whatever the app or car tells you. Normally it's 42. Pump your tires up in the morning after the car has been sitting all night. That's the best way to do it. Your tires are meant to warm up and increase past 42 PSI once you start driving, or like I said, whatever the in-car service screen or app tells you. The only time that you should underinflate is if you're like tracking the car, but if you're doing that, then you already know what you're doing. Now, these next 3 ways of improving your range are all kind of tied into one another. Keep the car plugged in, precondition the battery before leaving, and cut down on how many times you're opening your Tesla app. Tesla says in the manual, and I quote, "The most important way to preserve the high voltage battery is to," and this is in all caps, "leave your vehicle plugged in when you are not using it. Even when you've hit your charging limit, just leave it plugged in. The car will use line power or power from the wall instead of the battery for things like the computer, low voltage battery, and retaining heat while reducing cycles on your high voltage battery. It also allows the BMS to further condition and balance cells once you've completed charging. BMS being your battery monitoring system, which goes hand in hand with how much range your car actually shows. Now, when you go to drive, you'll want to precondition the battery, bringing it up to optimal temperatures, which will improve efficiency at the start of your drive. And well, if you're plugged in, the car will pull some of the power it's using to precondition from the wall or line instead of it all coming from your battery. This will save you some battery, thus extending your range. Now, there are 3 ways to precondition your battery. First is via the schedule in the car or the app. Just tell the car what time you plan on leaving every day, and it'll make sure your battery is preconditioned and ready to go. However, what if you don't have a set in stone schedule, or you want to just precondition one time? Well, instead of going into the car or app and setting a one-time schedule, just turn on your HVAC system. Yes, turning on your HVAC will start preconditioning the car along with the battery. Just go in and turn it on about 20 minutes before you depart, and your battery will be ready to go. Plus, your cabin temp will be at whatever you had it set to. And then the third way to precondition your battery, and this is to really only be used if you're in a pinch and you need to precondition the battery like ASAP. Route to a supercharger via the in-car nav. This will kick the battery heaters into overdrive and get the battery up to temp very quickly. It does kind of suck that this is the only way to really do this, and I wish Tesla would just add a battery precondition button like some other EVs have. Now, checking the Tesla app was something I did a ton when I first got the car. But what I didn't know, however, is every time I did this, the car was having to wake up and use some battery to show me what all was going on. If you're doing this just a few times a day, it's fine. The battery drain will be negligible. But doing it multiple times per hour all day long will start to add up over time. So don't just leave your Tesla app open on your desk at work, because the car will literally just stay awake and drain battery the whole time. Oh, and how keeping the car plugged in is related to this? Well, like I mentioned, the car uses line power for like computers and stuff, so you won't be drawing from your battery, thus draining it when you're opening and checking on the car via the app. Now, our number 4 way to improve range is weight. Remove unnecessary weight. Now, I'm the type of person to keep my car pretty clean and clear of just random stuff and just junk laying everywhere, but there are people that will just leave stuff in their cars for days, weeks, and or months at a time. So just make a habit of keeping your Tesla cleaned out. You can also do things like getting all-weather lightweight XPE floor mats. They provide the same great all-weather protection as the really thick rubber ones while being a quarter of the weight, looking much sleeker, and being much easier to clean. I've had mine since I first got my Model 3 and they still look great. I'll have them linked below. Now, this next one is something that I just did not believe until I looked into it, but keeping the car clean, like just the surface will actually improve efficiency. A dirty car with tons of bugs and whatnot all over the front is less efficient than a clean car. Someone ended up testing this in a gas car, and on average, the clean car got 2 more miles to the gallon compared to the dirty car. So yeah, clean your car. And it also just so happens that I have a how to properly clean and wash your Tesla video that I'll link below. Tesla paint is easily scratched, so make sure you give that video a watch. Okay, so now heading into the car for our next 2 things. First up is chill mode. Now, it's not that chill mode in and of itself makes your Tesla more efficient. It just makes it easier to drive it more efficiently. It essentially just cuts your acceleration in half. Like, have you ever looked at your energy graph after hitting 3 or 4 stoplights in a row? And chill mode is especially nice in long range and performance trims because the pedal halfway down in those cars are like foot through the floor Flintstone style in most other cars. It'll just smooth out your torque curve and will just all around lead to better efficiency. Also, chill mode will help save on tires for obvious reasons. And secondly is climate or HVAC. If you ride around with your climate on manual full blast, it's just gonna use up more juice compared to auto. And I get it. Before my Tesla, I was a super cold AC at 75% in the summer and super hot at full blast in the winter type of guy. But once I got my Tesla, I took Tesla's recommendation and gave the auto setting a shot. It took some time to get used to, but now it's what I use 24/7, literally all the time. I never switch it off of auto. It's just much more efficient than running manual as long as you don't go above medium. Now, another tip with the HVAC is during the winter, use your heated seats. They are much better at keeping you warmer because you're making direct contact with the seat, and it's much more efficient than the HVAC. Auto on medium during the winter is pretty good for me, but you throw on 1 or 2 stripes of bacon and it makes the car feel much warmer than what it actually is. Now, one of the best things about owning a Tesla is Regen braking. You don't gotta use the brake pedal and it puts energy back into the battery. So make sure you master it. After about a month or so, you should have Regen down, only needing to use the brake in emergencies or at the tail end of a stop. Now, Tesla doesn't allow you to adjust your Regen strength anymore, but if for some reason you still can, make sure you're using max Regen for maximum efficiency. And if you're having some problem with Regen, especially if you're newer, I actually find myself letting off the accelerator a little early and then feathering the accelerator up to where I actually need to stop. You're not gonna be able to perfectly judge every time when to fully let off the accelerator, and with this way, at least you're still not using your brake. Now, while we're on the topic of learning Regen, learn the Energy app. It can tell you how much range you have left based on your actual driving and not what's next to your battery, which you shouldn't be using anyway because it's pretty inaccurate due to it being based off of rated range. Not to mention the Regen app got a pretty big update last year and gives you a ton of information and tips to improve efficiency. Now, I know we already talked tires, but now let's talk wheels. First up, if you have wheel covers, use them. That's like a free 10 miles of extra range. And a hot take here I might get flamed for, the arrows look awful without the caps on them, for the 3 at least. I said it, and I don't regret it. I puke in my mouth a little bit every time I see arrows on a 3 without caps. And yes, I've seen the new 18-inch arrows. Same thing, I still don't like the underneath rim. And it's not like you need to run the factory arrows. There are a ton of third-party options, and all of them will pretty much get you that extra 10 miles, give or take a mile or 2. My favorite arrow covers being the ones that make them look like the Performance Uber turbine wheels. But what's even a bigger difference than the arrows is your wheel configuration. Now, if you have 18-inch aero wheels and you're already running aero caps, well, you can't really get much better than that. But if you're running the 19s, 20s, or 21s on the Y, consider getting a second smaller set. That's what I did, while also putting the best all-season tire, in my opinion, on them and dedicating them as my winter wheels. And this is even more true if you have a Performance Model Y, which has a staggered setup from the factory. You would see a massive range boost if you switch to a square setup on like 18s. A recent test I saw was someone gained upwards of 20 to 30 miles. Also, another benefit of downsizing your wheels is gonna be more comfort, simply because less wheel, more tire. And for the last way to increase your range, you're driving. More specifically, interstate driving. There's a reason why you see everyone doing range tests at 70 miles per hour, because once you get above that, you start destroying your range. So hop on in the far right lane and set your autopilot to 70 miles per hour. And yes, autopilot will help with your range, as it'll do a much better job at keeping you right at your speed limit while also having better throttle control than you ever would. And now once you're in that far right lane, find yourself a semi and start drafting. No, you don't gotta be right on their ass, but setting the car at even 3 or 4 car lengths back will net you better watt hours per mile. I did this recently on a road trip during a pretty long stretch and was actually mind blown as I watched the estimated range of my car going up in real time. At one point, I was getting better efficiency than what my Tesla is rated for. So far right lane at 70 miles per hour on autopilot, 3 to 4 car lengths behind a semi. Doing this will get you actually pretty close to your rated range, assuming it's not super cold or you're not just going straight up. Now, if you have any more ways to increase range, improve efficiency, drop them down in the comments section for others and myself to see. I'm always trying to save a few miles. Now, if you are new around here and you want to see more Tesla stuff in your YouTube feed, then feel free to subscribe. And if you like these tips and tricks videos, then drop a like so I know to keep making them. Sometimes I think that they're overdone, but I still have people that comment daily on like super old tips and tricks videos asking if it's still relevant or if I can just make an updated one. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.